Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video I'd like to discuss the latest COVID cases over the past few days, with the government having to add thousands of new cases to the tallies because the reporting from the private companies seems to have broken down somewhat, assuming that it was ever working. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, please subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification icon. So, there's always a lot of misinformation when it comes to how our COVID testing system is doing. The government frequently lie about the level of testing taking place, and we know they're lying because their own reports, their own official data gives the real figures, which is always way lower. So, when I talk about those real figures, they are very different. Government may say, we're testing hundreds of thousands a day. And then you look at their report and say, do you know what? You've never tested even 100,000 people in a day. And because those who write the reports, of course, cannot afford to lie and get away with it in the same way that government ministers can. This is why when the head of Test and Trace, Dido Harding, was asked about this disparity by a Labour MP in Parliament recently, Dido Harding suggested that the MP's figures were wrong. She said, I don't know where you've got these figures from. Then the MP in question, Dawn Butler, said, I got them from your report, your latest report. But the accuracy of the figures officially reported are still dependent upon the ability of these companies to carry out the testing and then actually to know how many tests they've done and how many were positive and how many were negative, and to pass that data on. A few evenings ago, I was checking, as I have been, recently, the latest figures for the new cases, because I do my own analyses on these. So in the evening, in the UK, the figures are posted. I checked those out. And there was nothing. And it was, when I left it another hour and there was still nothing. So then I went digging around and found the reason. It was being reported that the government have had to add an extra 6,000 to 7,000 positive results from the previous week that they hadn't known about, lost in the system. The private companies managing the testing, not managing their data. Somehow. I don't know. I looked at it, I thought, well, is this being overwhelmed by the number of tests needed now? Not sure. Perhaps they've been struggling to genuinely increase their capacity to even half of what the government are trying to claim is the case, but forgetting that they'd also need to expand their systems for reporting on these greater numbers as well. Then on Sunday evening, same thing happened. Looked, and this was quite late on, because this was after the Patreon stream, and they absolutely should have been posted by then. Still blank. And I thought, has it happened again? It had happened again. This time, they were adding about 25. So altogether, it was something like 16,000 new cases being reported that had been lost in the system from the previous week. Again, largely as the result of positive tests from the previous week, like I said. And at this point you think, is this now done? Have they now updated it with all of the results, or are there still more lost in the system? And if there are more lost in the system, will they even know? Are they telling us it's fine now, or do they even not know themselves? Because if the results aren't being processed and submitted quickly, it's not just that we as interested members of the public don't have the accurate data. I mean, that's on the scale of importance much less important than, say, the government having access to the accurate data. In Parliament last week, Boris Johnson said that we were responding to local infection rates much more effectively now than during the first wave, because now we know where the virus was thanks to Test and Trace. Now, I think we should leave for a moment the fact that we had a Test and Trace in place when we were just getting our first cases of COVID in the country, and that he personally stopped it in an effort to deliberately let the virus run rampant. But in general, what he's saying has some merit in that if you have a Test and Trace system in place, you can more accurately see the pattern emerging, where the hotspots of infection are, and focus in local measures. Absolutely. But how can we say with any confidence that we know where the virus is if we can't even be confident the official figures are accurate? Never mind the figures ministers try to claim in interviews that bear no relation to the government's own reports. And because we don't have the capacity to report results quickly, there's also a delay in informing those who need to know. And this is not just government this time. People who will ultimately get a negative test could be stuck in isolation for longer if they're having to wait longer to get their results back. We already knew that that was happening. That means they're being away from work or away from school for a day or 2 days longer than they should. But for those for whom the test is positive, there is a delay in telling those with whom they've been in contact with, because they need to isolate. And that results in potentially infectious but asymptomatic individuals spreading that infection to others. Because these additional results being added onto the figures at the weekend, down to what they're calling a technical glitch, were not just from the day before where it all went wrong. No matter how often they turned it off and on again. These were going back days. And it is known that tracing only works with any level of effectiveness if you can contact people within 48 hours. You've got 48 hours to contact them. Now, if that did not happen for thousands of positive cases, which it did not, it actually translates into tens of thousands of people not being contacted in time. Potentially hundreds of thousands, because we're not just talking about 2,000 or 3,000 positive tests missed here, 16,000. Then we look at the specific nature of the issue. So what is it that they're saying is this technical glitch? So they're blaming it on the IT, of course. They said it was caused because data files for positive tests reporting exceeded the maximum file size. Now, I don't call that a glitch. I call that a huge human error, because that begs the question, why is it that those files were too large for the system? Are the files too large because of the sheer number of positive results we're getting? That's what's making the files larger. If so, why didn't we have a system that could cope with the current number of positive results? Because our current number of new positive results each day, though way higher than during the first wave, is still lower than it could be in the future. If you look at France, for example, it's not as high as theirs, nowhere near at the moment. So someone from Public Health England said that they ensured that outstanding cases were prioritised for contact tracing. So the idea was, load of new positive cases. Oh, they've been waiting for a while. We'd better prioritise contacting the people that were in close contact with those people as a priority. But you think, but that's impossible. You can't. Their actual words were they ensured that these outstanding cases were prioritised for contact tracing effectively. Impossible. As I've already said, the strongest expert advice says you have to contact them within 48 hours. Must contact them within 48 hours to have any significant impact. Some proportion of those lost results, we do not know how many, because it was days worth, a whole week's worth that was lumped in. Some of them would have only been brought to light 48 hours after the positive test. So the 48 hours has already passed for some. Did they still prioritise those over contacts that still had enough time to act? What is going on? I mean, I would say we'll have to wait until this week's PMQs, but although I'm sure Keir Starmer will ask about it, I'm equally sure he will not get an answer. Because I also saw a former Conservative MP saying that people should lay off Dido Harding. Again, people are saying, why is this person in charge of this programme? Why? And he was saying, lay off her over this latest cock-up because they didn't use the word cock-up. They said it's because our test and trace system was still in its infancy. Give her a break. But as people were quick to point out, we've been dealing with COVID for 7 months, and we had longer than that to prepare. We've known about it for longer. Why is it still in its infancy? We were promised a world-beating system. At the time, Labour leader Keir Starmer said that he'd be happy with an effective system. Doesn't have to be world-beating. If it's going to be, fine. I just want an effective system. Can you promise me an effective system? To which the Prime Minister said, yes, I can. Why is it that other countries have advanced systems in place and ours is still in its infancy? Why is that? Let us just recap some of the highlights of this world-beating system. First of all, it told people to drive hundreds of miles whilst ill with COVID symptoms in order to get a test. 2, it sometimes booked people in, and it still does this. You ring in, you book yourself in for a test. You go there, you could be driving for miles. You get there, you're told they've run out of tests because people who just turned up without a booking got them. So you booking an appointment doesn't put a test aside for you when they know you're coming. No. They just use them anyway. Pointless you even booking. You might as well just drive to a random centre and hope, you know. 3, we had contact tracers who were sat around not doing anything. First of all, because they couldn't log in, the actual system didn't work. But also, you know, just in general, there was this huge backlog of cases. They were sat around at home waiting to be assigned something. You know, 4, we have not only not been able to get in touch with anywhere near enough contacts, you know, on the tracing program, but the success rate has actually gotten worse as time has gone on. You might expect problems with the system you've had to hastily set up, even though we hastily set up months after we knew we needed it. You might expect that, but then you get better, don't you? After each week you have meeting, your managers have meetings, right? What have we learned? Let's improve this. Next week we'll get better results. Better results, better results, better results. That's how an effective team works. Looks at where it went wrong and goes, right, let's improve that. And then the next time they do better. No, do worse. Worse. 5, we've had test results completely go missing. Completely. I don't just mean like last week where they got added on too late, just straight up gone missing. 6, sometimes tests are carried out, but the patient details are not recorded. So you've got tests and you can get the results. You can send them to lab, quite possibly in Germany or Italy, and get the results. But you can't get the results back to someone because you didn't take their details. 7, we are still nowhere near able to meet demand. Nowhere near. In fact, it's even hard to claim that we're even increasing our actual testing capacity to anywhere near the level being claimed as well. And now the government want the person who presided over this mess, Dido Harding, not just to run tests. It's not just that they're getting rid of her and getting someone more suitable in. They are wanting her to take over all public health matters in England. It's taking the piss. Lay off her, you have to be joking. She is going to bring her brand of incompetence to all public health matters in England very soon. But anyway, those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. Hope you found the video interesting. If you did, don't forget to click the like button. If you'd like to support the channel further, please also click the Patreon link for details. And until next time, I'll see you later.